Hello. Welcome to the Talkin Kop. I'm here with my friends Kev and Chris. My name's Ashley, in case you haven't been here before. And we're here to talk about the Burnley preview for this weekend. So we went from Barnsley this past couple of days, and now we're going to Burnley, one kind of deep, low block to another. So, Chris, we haven't seen you in a little while. Kev and I have been doing a few shows. You've been resurrected off of the deathbed.
I've been working as well.
You feeling better?
No. No, okay. Not at all. I've been working and coaching under 13s, which has been great fun.
Well, that's not going to make you feel much better, is it? Especially if you're out in the cold and the rain. But what about with regards to the Reds? How are you feeling after our, rip-roaring success against good old Barnsley? And how are you feeling going against the great mighty Burnley?
Very meh. I can't really. I was like, yeah, cup game, yeah, great. You got through. I've seen plenty of third round cup games that are crap and boring like that. Just because, but to us, this unbeaten run we've been on, which is 10, 11 games now, it's just the most unconvincing 10, 11 game unbeaten run I've seen. So just wasn't very exciting. I don't think from Barnsley anyone really sort of grabbed the shirt and you went, oh, he should be starting a bit soon. I thought maybe Robbo. Thought Robbo was fine. But Chiesa thought was okay, but I can see why he doesn't start. Rio thought he was okay, but you can see why he doesn't start. He seems to struggle to make an impact on a League One side. Now, is that down to if they got more minutes, would they be a bit more impactful? Maybe, or maybe 17. Do you know what? It takes a bit longer to adapt to it. So I sort of feel like we didn't really learn anything new. The good news was it was nice to see Hugo back on the pitch. I thought him and Verts' link up when they came on was really good, and that's probably the big positive that seems to be getting better and better. Their link up is getting better every game, and then the goal. I know I saw the comments. I got told I was overreacting. I still think it's the most stupid thing I've ever seen in my life, and kind of sums up where Liverpool are. I think it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen a player do defensively. It's just, I think it was just arrogance. I think it was arrogance, and he got caught for it. And I'll be honest, because he's been our best player of the season, it'll go under the radar quite quickly. If it was anybody else, I think the outrage would have been 10 times higher. So yeah, Burnley, weird side for us. At Burnley, we feels like we never lose. At home, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I think in our last 6, we've won 3, lost 1, drawn 2. So, I mean, look, some of that was in the COVID season now, but yeah, Burnley at our place seems to do better. So, but I think it'll be similar to a Sunderland game. I think it'll be quite a dull affair, but touch wood, I don't believe they have as big a threat attacking-wise as a Sunderland or Leeds.
I think that's a fair assumption to make.
But I think they're going to do
rude to them at all.
But I think they're going to do what everybody else is. I think they'll play a back 5, which I'm sure, judging by Slot's post-match, he'll be shocked about, because he seems to be shocked when everyone plays a back 5. And they'll sit deep, and they'll wait for us to make a mistake. Because, to be honest, they were 30 seconds away from getting a point at their place against us doing that exact same tactic, and I don't see why they'd change it.
Yeah, well, looking at where they sit in the table, they have 13 points. They're currently in 19th position. They won 5-1 against Millwall in the cup. That's their last their most recent success. But prior to that, Kev, can you throw up the last 6 games slide for Liverpool and Burnley, just so we can compare just the Premier League form, and then also just the form for all competitions. So this is including cup games and everything. So if you weren't here on our show last night, we are trying this new thing with graphics everywhere. So hopefully you guys like graphics. Please let us know if you don't in the comments and in the chat after the show. But yeah, looking at this, again, neither of these screams like absolutely fantastic, but if you're looking at Burnley, especially their Premier League form, I mean, their last draw was that one away against Manchester United, who was under a caretaker manager, trying a different formation. Pretty much everything was sort of going wrong that could have gone wrong. And I don't know if we can really read that much into that performance per se, other than you can't take them lightly, because they do, they're still a Premier League side. But, this is a side, let's just be completely honest, that we should be comfortably beating, Kev.
Yeah, look, you're at home against a newly promoted side who look like they're going to be going straight back down. And you don't want to be making hard work of these games. Marseille midweek is going to be tough enough.
That's a good point.
You know, you're going to want to get this job done, and it doesn't matter whether it's convincing or not. You just want to see, a better performance. Want to see the ball moved a bit quickly at times. You're not going to ask for helter skelter football because we're just not going to see it. So there's no point in expecting it. But there are times in the game against Barnsley where when we did move the ball quicker, we saw how players reacted to it, especially in the second half with Hugo and Florian Wirtz and Curtis Jones. When they accelerated the movement of the ball, good things tended to happen. Be interesting to see what the lineup is because, look, we know pretty much what his 11, potentially 12 players that he could use will be. It's just how are they going to line up? Because they've changed around with different players in different midfield roles in recent games. Sometimes it's been Jones in the 6, sometimes McAllister has been that one to drop deeper. Other times Szoboszlai is playing in that 6th role. So I'll be interested in this spot. I'll be looking for that position first, and then who's playing on the left. Is Wirtz going to be central? Is Wirtz going to be left? Is Gakpo going to be starting, or is he going to be on the bench? You know, all things that Arne Slot's going to have to chat about. We'll find out as well tomorrow with the press conference as to the fitness of the squad and if there's any injuries or any knocks being carried into the week that we haven't heard about. So far, it's been pretty quiet this week. Nothing coming out of the club really, apart from PR stuff. We've got this new kit to sell you. But yeah, you look forward to every game, but this is definitely one that needs to be 3 points, move on. That's what it needs to be. Look at the top bar there. Or we've 3 draws on the bounce in the league. We need to get a win on the board. That's 6 points dropped.
Yeah.
Arsenal draw acceptable, but that's
the other
2 is 4 points where we've dropped 4 points there. We need to get back to winning ways.
I mean, one of the things that we've talked about in the past, Chris, is really not taking advantage of these promoted sides, not taking maximum points away from these promoted sides. We know that we've had these issues in the past. As you said, we kind of narrowly squeaked by away at Burnley. We need to rectify that because, we're not going to win the league this year. But in terms of getting points on the board, this is the time to do it. We need to start building up some sort of healthy margin or gap in between sort of the rest of the pack and ourselves. And we are at a point in time where you have Chelsea and Manchester United, who are kind of our direct competitors right behind us. Both of those teams are in a moment of turnover and change with their managers or their, temporary interim managers. I don't know how that's going to go for them. And we need to kind of strike while the iron is hot, for lack of a better term. I'm thinking this is 3 points or nothing. I will not accept a draw for this game. There's no way that we're walking out or coming on this kind of platform after that game being happy with a draw, right, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, look, get promoted side, it's 4 games and it's 1 win. That's literally where we are. It's 1 win against 4 games against promoted sides. It's not good enough. And listen, again, this weekend is a potential weekend where you can create more of a gap because Man United are at home to City. That's not going to be easy. Chelsea are at home, but they're playing Brentford. I mean, Brentford are literally a point behind us.
They're on our tail more than the other 2 are, actually.
Exactly. So, so the chasing packs are starting to, I've got difficult games. Newcastle, to be fair, who aren't far behind us, I've got probably a gimme because they've got Wolves, and you'd expect them to beat Wolves. So, Villa, who are above us, I've got Everton at home. Again, you probably expect them to beat Everton, but Everton, have proven they could be a difficult side to break down. So you've got to worry about your own thing. But I also agree with Kev. This is one of those games where you need to try and win it early because you've got Marseille midweek, and Marseille away is going to be no barrel last. And Marseille away is probably a game now we have to win. If you win away at Marseille, you're almost pretty much guaranteed.
We could afford a draw there, but you don't want to be going into the last game needing a win.
I think because our goal difference in the Champions League is average, I think, is like +3 or +4. They might have to win both games to guarantee top 8, to be honest.
They might. I think that we'd be okay with 16 points, which would be a draw and a win. That's just my gut feeling, because I just don't think that the other teams around us are all going to be able to get to that level. But you're right. That's going to be a very hard game.
Yeah, with that probably as a show, do a breakdown of the teams above is what they've got left to do. But I kind of feel like I'm not convinced 16's enough because of the goal difference. So, and it should be at the start of the season. You'd have said 16 will get you top 8. So, for me, Liverpool need to go out with the mindset of try and get this one early, so then you can rest players, because I still think there are players in the squad who will be able to do full 90s anyway. I don't see Hugo doing a full 90. So if he starts, he needs to get it won while he's on the pitch, because coming off the bench is going to be lads that he doesn't fancy.
Yeah. Do you, Kev, do you want to go into lineups this early, or do you want to? Oh, you're on mute, Kev.
We can do lineups for sure. Yeah. Do you want to do yours first?
Well, yeah. Let's just talk about kind of what we're gonna do here. So, as again, sort of playing with these graphics, we kind of threw up what we kind of, I don't know, our predicted lineup, I guess I would say. So let's throw up the Trippers predicted lineup. I thought we were doing the one that we both agreed on.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
okay,
that was a draft. The first.
That was a draft. Okay.
This one. This was the collective one that
okay.
was mostly driven by Kev. Because that's the way it is. So this is kind of what we have settled on, sort of as a collective group that is captained by Kev, our master tactician. So starting at the back, we have Alisson in goal. No surprise there. Kirkes, Van Dijk, Konate, and Frimpong as a back four. We have Gravenberch and Jones sitting slightly deeper in that more defensive role. And then we have McAllister in that kind of upper, what do you want to call him, 10, I guess. And then Wirtz and Szoboszlai taking up those places out on the wings, dropping in, being creative. And then you have Hugo Ekitike as the 9, who, as Chris says, is probably not going to be able to make the full 90, certainly probably won't even make 75 minutes. It's going to be one of those games where you're getting him up to fitness. I'd say he gets an immediate substitution off at 60 minutes. Maybe you see Cody Gakpo come in there. Any changes, Chris, that you wanted to make on this? Because we didn't have the chance to touch base.
No, I mean, look, that's probably the strongest lineup we can do. The only question marks you've got, and again, these are probably more fitness questions, is are they going to, I mean, the gaps between the games, where it was, it's Saturday, Wednesday, but because he's just coming back from a hamstring strain, is Hugo going to be just told you're only doing half hour and Gakpo's going to start? Or, because that's all of our midfielders, again, does he go Wirtz right, Gakpo left, and then hold back a central midfielder to rotate in, just to save legs? They're the only question marks you can have. But that's our strongest lineup. So that wouldn't surprise me if that was the lineup. But they're the only potential tweaks he could do, is Gakpo coming in just to give one of the midfielders a rest, potentially, or Gakpo starting ahead of Hugo if they don't think if they want him just to do half hour rather than do it 60. I suppose it's only they'll know how close his fitness is.
Yeah, I think that's probably a toss of the coin in terms of fitness wise, because he did get, I don't know, roughly 15-ish minutes in the Barnsley game. And traditionally you do work up like 15, 30, 60 or so. So it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if Cody Gakpo and Ekitike flip-flopped. We know that Slot loves Cody Gakpo for, one reason or another. But it wouldn't surprise me to see him there.
He's still a second highest goal scorer though. So
he has been saying something.
I know it's a low bar. It's a low bar, but that maybe is a question about some of the others who probably aren't doing enough outside of Hugo.
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the things that I noticed on our bench in terms of the Barnsley game was that Endo was on there. I don't know where Endo's fitness is, but you guys talk about getting a game won early. This, to me, would be the perfect opportunity for a last 15 minutes. Even, half an hour, last 15 minutes, get Endo on to see out this game. Even if he's fit for the last 15 minutes and that's it. I would love to see that. So you're talking about really not having midfielders to rotate here. we're going to have to be clever. Slot specifically called out Neoni and not being able to give him more minutes in that Barnsley game. He's another one that will be on our bench. Outside of that, there's really just Robertson that you're probably going to be able to bring on for Kirkez. One thing that kind of popped up in the rumor mill recently in the last half an hour was Joe Gomez possibly going for treatment scans. Now, granted, this is coming from Indy. Take it with a grain of salt. But if that's the case, that's something that we probably need to talk about. So I'm going to read you that tweet, and then I'm going to kind of extrapolate on it, and I'm going to get your responses to said tweet. So Indy has posted, I want to say about 22 minutes now, Joe Gomez attended for treatment scans in the last 24 hours. At this stage, unknown if it was a routine checkup or something more serious. Should find out soon enough. My response to you guys when we talked about this before the show started was, well, there are certain players that are in our team that are going and getting routine MRI scans every single week. That's part of their treatment plan. So Florian Wirtz and Hugo Ekitike are two of those players. They're primarily being sent for MRIs to look for delayed onset muscle soreness. So that's the DOMS that you might hear out in the media. They're looking for any sort of tears in the muscles, kind of preventative work to keep them from pulling hamstrings and whatnot. So there's a chance that that's all this is, that that's Joe Gomez going for some sort of routine checkup after the Barnsley game. There's also a chance that that's not the case, which basically leaves us with no cover for our left center back, our right center back, and our right back, unless you want to count Ramsey. Kev, I'm going to come to you.
Which slot doesn't count? Which slot doesn't count?
Well, slot doesn't count, but Liverpool FC do count because they wrote a 10-page article up on Calvin Ramsey and put it right smack dab in the middle of their homepage. Chris, do you want to talk about this first here?
No, go. You let Kev. Go.
Okay. All right, Kev. What's your response kind of to, let's just talk about worst case scenario here. If Joe Gomez is out for treatment and scans and we find out there's an issue with Joe Gomez, what's your response?
You got 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to fix this. The window closes in 2 weeks, and any opportunity that you have to address the depth of this squad is gone until the summer. And it's not like this is a surprise. It just isn't. A blind man could have predicted in September that Joe Gomez would struggle to do 3 games back to back. Now it's a case that if you get a red card to any of the back, to the centre back pairings, he's going to be needed to do 3 Premier League games back to back, or 2 Premier Leagues and an FA Cup game. So if he's getting precautionary scans, which I think he probably is, I'd be surprised if he wasn't. He's just coming back from injury himself, so it's probably just a case of seeing where he is with it. I've seen one predicted lineup tonight that had him starting tomorrow or Saturday. So look,
I don't think there's any way that he gets risked.
No.
I don't think there's any way, and especially against a team like Burnley, who are not going to come out with some sort of massive attacking threat.
No, they're not. So look, I just think it's precaution, an abundance of precaution. I mean, I've seen people in the chat talking about starting Cody Gakpo and stuff like that. I don't think you can. Given
starting
the fact
Cody
that
Gakpo where? At center
it's
back?
not a case. It's not a no. I mean, instead of maybe McAllister, and put McAllister on the bench as someone who could come on and affect the game from midfield by resting a midfielder during the game or something. But starting with Cody on the left, Florian on the 10 with Hugo up top, maybe.
Yeah, that's definitely workable.
It's an option, but the problem is if you've got to replace Hugo on the hour, which is more than likely what you're going to have to do, then you don't have anyone to come off the bench apart from McAllister, and then you shift in Cody inside.
Which isn't his position.
But what's the point?
Do
you know, what's the point? Let Flo play off the left. Let McAllister. I mean, the other thing you could do, McAllister could drop into the 6. Jones could play on the left, and Flo could play in the 10. You could do it that way. I mean, the thing is, Burnley are going to sit in. They are going to play. They set up against Manchester United with this 3-4-3, a 3-4-2-1 system, which effectively is a 5-4-1 off the ball. And on the ball, they spring with counters with Okachukwu, a good player. Medjbury is going to try to hatchet someone because it's just what he does. You got Edwards as a winger, but playing him inside, he's quick. He's all right. And Broja can try to hold the ball up, but that's about it. He has one really good game in 10. He's that kind of player. So Kyle Walker up and down the pitch, but he hasn't got the pace to get him out of trouble like he used to. He gets rash. So having Florian Wirtz on that side would probably be the best place to use him because of his quick feet. You could draw Kyle Walker into fouls, I think. So, but they'll almost definitely play with a back three and two wing backs who will be pushed back into a five. And we're going to have a lot of the ball. It's just the way it's going to play out. But his options of what he can do from the bench, I think that's why I don't think you can start Cody. I think you bring Cody on because he can give you cover on the wings. He can play up front, and you hope then the Endo is available to come on the hour or on 70 minutes because you're going to want to protect the likes of McAllister or Gravenberch because they can't keep playing 90 minutes, 2-3 times a week. They just can't keep doing it. You have to be able to use the likes of Endo off the bench in games, Chiesa off the bench in games. You have to use them now, because the depth just isn't there. So, and by the looks of it, we're still not hearing any noise coming out about players leaving or players coming in. So it looks like this is it, up until May. The noise you're hearing coming out of Liverpool is we're going to do this, and this in the summer. You're not hearing anything about, we're looking to bring XYZ player in now. So he's going to have to manage the squad as best he can, manage the minutes as best he can, and the medical team are going to have to be right on it. And if precautionary scans are happening, I'd be surprised if they're not, and that's the truth. I'd be very surprised if they're not.
Chris, I'll come to you on the news with Gomez, but also in the lineup here. One of the things that I really liked against Barnsley, and there wasn't a ton of things that stood out, but toward the end of the game when we saw Ekitike and Wirtz come on together in basically this lineup that we're seeing here. The interplay that is starting to be cultivated between those two players, I think, is one of the highlights of the season so far. There's not a lot of highlights. And I think in the last couple of games specifically that the two of them have played, I think you're seeing a really beautiful kind of link up happening between those two players. So one of the arguments I have against kind of tweaking Wirtz too much or throwing him over to the right or do things, I would really like to see some sort of
settled lineup.
Just some sort of structure or like skeleton behind this where Wirtz and Ekitike can start knowing exactly where each other are going to be. So speak on the Joe Gomez injury first, and then, if there's anything about the lineup here that you want to talk about, feel free. The floor is yours.
In terms of the Joe Gomez thing, like you said, you hope it's just a precautionary scan. They probably do it with a lot of players. We all know what Joe Gomez's injury record is, so you always assume the worst. In terms of if he is injured, they probably won't do anything. They'd
have to. If he's injured, they can't go with no center backs.
I think they will, because I wish Richard Hughes would just shut up talking to the media. Stop talking to David Ornstein and trying to gaslight the fan base by going, we don't panic and look for short-term fixes. Well, not be funny, lads. You wanted a winger and a centre-back in the summer, and you fucked up getting them. And now and guess what? We feel a winger light, we feel a centre-back light. And guess what? Joe Gomez is likely injured again. None of those are surprises. So it's not a short-term knee-jerk, we should buy a centre-back because Bradley got injured. We needed a centre-back before any of these injuries come in. And this word salad bollocks to come out with, it's now extraordinary opportunity. That's code for no one. Because what extraordinary opportunity you get in January? Kvaratskhelia was probably the last big one we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years. It doesn't have to be an extraordinary. It just has to be smart, or even if it's a short-term one. There's nothing wrong with doing short-term fixes. Something you have to flip in 18 months' time. Because, to be honest, some of the squad's going to get flipped in the summer anyway. So, give yourself less to do in the summer. Bring something forward now, and I'll be honest, swallow your pride a little bit. Except you've got some things wrong with the summer and try and rectify it, because I kind of would like a run in the Champions League. I kind of would like a run in the FA Cup, as well as getting top 4. So, do you know what? There are things to play for this season. Not the trophy we all want, which was the league. but there are still things to play for. So why hamper your chances? You've nailed your close to the with the manager till at least the end of the season. So give him some tools to work with. If he chooses not to use them or he chooses to misuse them, then do you know what? You live by the sword, you die by the sword. But give him the opportunity to do that. In terms of a lineup, yeah, I know what you mean. I think Wirtz is something like 5 goal involvements in his last 6. He's in a nice run of attacking form. Him and Hugo's link up for Wirtz's goal was exceptional, and good players always find a way. And I know what you mean. If Hugo has definitely got an hour in him, you'd like to think between Hugo and Wirtz, by the hour mark, they should have broken through a couple of times to create chances and actually take them. So in terms of the Joe Gomez thing, what will be will be. If Liverpool don't add anything in the summer, let's see how chatty Richard Hughes is in the press if things don't go well. He's very good at patting himself on the back. Not so good, but he's very quiet when things are going a bit not to what seems to be the plan.
I mean, there's a little bit of chat in here about, Liverpool have bought the young center back, Noah Adekoya.
He's not going to play this season.
I'm just going to throw out some numbers for you guys. He's played 7 minutes this season in a competitive match. So if you think that he's going to come in and be our break glass option, that's not happening.
No.
Some of these kids are being brought in long term. They're going to go directly into Page's setup.
They're a different project. They're
very much.
They're planning for 5 years in the future, which is sensible. There's nothing wrong with that, but that doesn't help you now.
No, but it comes back to that idea of this is why I don't like broadcasting these signings as if they are first team signings. There's just no way in hell that you're going to get a player that has 7 minutes of competitive action. And when I say competitive action, I mean like the U21 Cup. So I'm not talking about senior football either. So he's one for the future, sure. All of these guys are one for the future.
Let's be funny. We've seen experienced international players take a while to adapt to the Premier League. You're not going to throw an 18-year-old kid into doing that. I don't think we will, but you never know.
I think he's 19. But that being said, like there are players that Slot would put in well before a kid like that, and it would probably go all the way down to Lucky and Nallo ahead of this kid. So these signings that have been made, yes, they happen to be center back positions, and yes, it does look great on a Twitter feed where you're like, Liverpool have signed a center back. No, they have signed a player for the academy. We need to separate the two. And, are they ones for the future? Are they trying to future-proof that position? Absolutely. Is it good planning? Absolutely. But the two things are two different issues. And I think that we have to be careful not to conflate them. And that's, again, no big deal, but that's not the answer. And, for me, if Joe Gomez is out for any extended period of time, whether it's a loan, I mean, I'm back on like the Ozan Kabak train at that point where you get a loan in and you figure something out. Like, even if it's not a long-term plan, you need cover. You just need a body there. It really doesn't matter. So there does come a point, and we saw that with that season. There came a point when there were too many center back injuries and they did act. They didn't act permanently, but they brought in Davies, they brought in Kabak, and they said, you know what? We understand that we actually physically cannot go any further. So, that's kind of my take on what FSG would do in that situation.
But if they're worried about money, for example, the financial situation, why can't we try and do, which plenty of clubs seem to be able to do, is somebody want for the summer, they loan them in January with an obligation to buy for the fee the club want. It's just, workarounds for workarounds. Everyone does them. So you can't tell me you haven't got enough contacts that we can get this.
When was the last time that actually worked in the Premier League?
But why can't you try it? You're in that situation.
I'm just asking. I understand, like, in theory, it sounds really fun, but, like, when was the last time that someone actually did that with an elite player?
I think,
I know. Like, Asensio, maybe?
Ray
was really well. Well,
Ray was
buy him.
Ray for Arsenal was done on a loan with an obligation to buy a year later. That, he's
so that's a good example. Yeah, that's a good example.
Kevin Danzo was another one. Kulusevski was another one. It literally, It's one of those deals that you do depending on where you are PSR wise. Look, money
But
isn't
I don't
the
think
problem.
that's our issue here.
No,
I don't
money
actually think
isn't
this
the problem.
ultimately comes down to PSR. I think this comes down to a strategic choice.
No, we talked about it last night. It's down to the numbers that are available to put into the squad.
That as well, yes.
It is only that because the non-homegrown slots in the squad is full. So until we sell somebody or loan somebody out,
I thought we had one for the Premier. I thought we had one for the Premier League, but we don't.
17.
But we don't have one for the
We have
Champions
17
League because of
We
Rio.
have 17.
Currently, we
taken.
moved Calvin Ramsey into the Premier League, and that took up that spot.
Fair
So
enough.
there's no one there right now.
Yeah.
Fair
So
enough. I forgot about Ramsey.
You'd have to loan somebody out, sell somebody, or deregister somebody and just put them on gardening leave for 6 months.
Well, there have been loan offers for Ramsey.
Yeah.
The club have come out and said, we think that he's going to be our cover for Connor Bradley. You know, I'll believe it when I see it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
He's one that, you know, he could do with a loan. He needs proper football so that he can, if he has any hope of kind of being at senior level long term, he still has enough time to resurrect his career. He's an easy one. There are loan offers on the table for him. And if you were to get in a center back / right back, someone that was sort of a utilitarian jack of all trades, that could be done. It's not outside of the realms of possibility to do that. There's still chatter about Chiesa as well. We've talked about that to death, but I think there's a real possibility that he is one that if they got the right offer or if they found the right person, that they maybe would let Chiesa go. Because the one thing that we also didn't touch upon with our lineups and everything is that we have Mo coming back, not for this game, but probably for the next game. So, you know, as much as we do kind of have all of our midfielders in this graphic here, you know, it's probably the last kind of make do and mend situation that we are going to have in that kind of right wing situation. At least I think.
Well, I was gonna say,
I would imagine that Mo goes right back in there.
I was saying that, but for Egypt, they played him in a front two, and we have been playing 4-4-2 up until recently. With Isak being out, does he look at using Mo central and sticking to the rest of the solidity where it is?
I would
take the pressure. Take the pressure off Hugo, and you take the pressure off Mo's legs because you say to him, "Stay central." He's got the body strength to deal with it. Drift wide when you need to, and he's a predator in the box. It kind of solves your Isak problem. And
I'm torn here, and maybe you guys can clear something up for me. But you know, I was under the assumption that kind of two at the front maybe was the plan while Mo was away. Maybe it became the plan while, you know, we were trying to kind of steer the ship. We got that little diamond thing going, and we had the two at the front that was working. But then I come back to Slot's quotes recently where he says, you know, that's not my style. I'm simply doing it because I'm forced to do it right now. I play with wingers, and I want to play with wingers.
He'll know what it's like to want then, because he doesn't have wingers. He hasn't got it.
I agree with you. You know, but again, I'm having a really hard time. Sometimes there's things that are coming out of Slot's mouth that are over here, and then what I'm seeing on the picture over here, and I'm having a really hard time kind of coming to terms with the two of them.
Yeah,
Kev, do you feel like that too?
Yeah, look, I came to the realization a long time ago that managers lie through their teeth. And he literally is talking to Richard Hughes when he's talking like that. Has to be, because if his ideals are he wants to play a 4-3-3 with two wide forwards and a 9, then you don't have the squad to play that way. The squad isn't being built to play that way. You are playing with two up front. You saw it in the third goal that we scored against Barnsley the other night. You know, with Florian Wirtz and Hugo as a 9 and 10, acting as a striker and a support striker for each other. You know, we've been playing with two up top, but it's not your traditional two up top. It's one up top and one dropping off, but they've been trying to play as a pair. The 10, whoever is playing in it, is so not involved in the build-up play that you see it. You go back and look at the touch maps for Alexis McAllister when he plays in the 10. He's hardly involved. There was one game, and it stood out like a sore thumb to me. I think he touched the ball like 45 times in the 10 position in a league game there over Christmas, playing in a 10. And it's like, because we're not finding that player. And maybe it's because it's him. Maybe it's because he's just not used to the position anymore. I don't know what it is, but it goes to what McCoy said in commentary the other night. Playing in the number 9 role, the way Cody Gakpo plays, and sometimes the way Hugo plays it, is a very lonely role playing for this Liverpool side, because the ball doesn't get whipped across the box often enough. And it's very difficult to time your runs off the wingers that we have, off the wide players that we have, because unless you're Jeremy Frimpong, who's probably the easiest of the lot to gauge how to gauge your runs off, the quality isn't coming into the box. And the build-up play tends to be mostly central. It's coming from the outside in. And it's just a strange one. It's frustrating to watch. And I get it's not the way he wants to play. But I think it's the way he's forced to play because of the makeup of the players that we have at the minute. And it is literally what it is at the minute, Like I said, he can want to play with wingers all he like. But I honestly think it wouldn't surprise me to see Mo playing as a second striker or playing as a 9 and even sharing the minutes with Hugo in that role. And sometimes starting on the right to rest Domo, or if Domo has to drop into right back, Salah will probably start wide. If it's going to be a game by game, horses for courses. It's not going to be right. This is the 11 we're going with for the next 5 games, and we'll interchange 1 or 2 here and there. But that spine is going to stay the same. It's not. It's going to be a case of, okay, who's fit, who can give me 90, who can give me 70. Okay, fine. I'll work out an 11, and this is what we're going to go with.
I mean, look, the other hope with Mo is, he did, he scored a few goals in the AFCON. I think he became Egypt's second highest goal scorer. I think he's got like 10 goals now in AFCON history. He got winners, he got equalizer. So he had goals that contributed. So what you hope is he takes that sort of confidence from a goal scoring perspective back into the Premier League. And he's had, obviously, the games aren't sticking fast, because there's a bit more gap. So again, he's also probably had a bit more rest than he's probably had in a while, because he's not that hectic Christmas period to deal with. So you also got to hope he's a bit more refreshed, hopefully.
I mean, I don't know if you can be more refreshed after competing in a national tournament and being the man that literally carries your team.
But he's not had the like over the Christmas. It's like a game every 2.5 days. It's like really, really compact. He's had a bit more space between games, I think. Because realistically, he's played 4 or 5 games. Yes, high intensity, but he's physically had more gaps between games, which he hasn't had over the Christmas period for ages.
Yeah, well, he does. That's a really good point. He is staying for that third place game on Saturday. So,
right, rightly so.
He probably won't be back until Bournemouth, I would have thought.
I'd have said he'll be back on the pitch for Bournemouth. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the bench for the Champions League. Look, Mo Salah loves the Champions League. And potentially this could be his last season at Liverpool. We don't know. He'll want to make it. He'll probably want to make himself available as much as possible. And it's as easy for him to fly and meet the squad in Marseille as it is to come back to Liverpool, stay there. He'll be on his own. He'll have a few days break, go back to training, get reacclimatized back in England, and be available for, I think it's Bournemouth at the weekend.
It'd be a great option to be able to start Hugo against Marseille with 20 minutes to go, right, Hugo needs his rest. Let's throw Mo Salah on.
Yeah.
It's not the worst option to have to throw on.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if that happens. But it'll be interesting to see if he actually plays in that third place playoff game.
I mean, I think when you said that he's nearly their club record goal scorer, I think he's 1 goal away from being their club record goal scorer. And we know that Mo Salah loves a record. And we know that maybe, I don't know if this is his last African Cup of Nations or not. I imagine he probably has 1 more.
I think the next AFCON is in 4 years' time. I think it's 4 years to the next one.
Yeah, so I'd imagine he might have 1 more in him. because
Yeah,
he'll
he
probably
probably
be
would, yeah.
like 37, 38 by
Yeah,
then.
he'll still could play.
You know, and he'll still be around. But if he has the opportunity to break that record this weekend, I think he's going to probably want to play.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Circling back to this game, let's just pull up those last 10 results against Burnley and just kind of chat about Burnley just a little bit more. So one of the things about Burnley, which I just kind of highlighted, this is our record here. So we do have a pretty good record against Burnley. You know, that loss is kind of going back to like the COVID years. I think that was the one where Andy Robertson was fouled.
That was the one. That was the 1-1. That was the 1-1.
Was that the 1-1? Okay.
That Burnley one was the horrendous 6 home defeats in a row.
Okay, yeah. So I've just blurted that out of my memory. There's just no record of that whatsoever.
Remember doing post match for that, Kev?
Black hole. So the draw was the Andy Robertson foul. Otherwise, you know, pretty good record there. But one of the things I highlighted, like I said, was that 6 of Burnley's last 11 league goals have been scored from the 85th minute onward. And for Liverpool, I think that screams out as a problem because that is our kind of kryptonite. That is our Achilles heel recently, this idea of late goals, dropping our attention, maybe even if you harken back to that Szoboszlai incident against Barnsley, maybe getting a little bit cocky. There are not a ton of weapons that Burnley have, but that is one that they do tend to stick with, is they are in it till the end of the game. They will keep trying.
That's the game plan. That's the game plan for Burnley is, look, stay in the game until you get to the last 15 and then go for it. They'll make the changes off the bench to probably go to a back 4, maybe go 2 up top, maybe go 4-2-4 for the last 10, 15 minutes of games. Throw the kitchen sink at it, and they get the odd goal here and there. So that is no surprise to me. But it's usually from losing positions that they're doing that. You know, because Scott Parker, look, when he got him promoted playing really good football, open, scoring goals for fun. They scored a lot of goals, but kept a break of clean sheets. It was more, I think it was James Trafford was in goal for him. And he kept something I think he kept 13 clean sheets on the bounce or something stupid like that. So it's like they came up as being defensively sound. Mm-hmm. But this is a different level, and he's under pressure. You know, he is under pressure, Scott Parker, which is kind of crazy because I think they had to come up with the expectation that they're probably going to go back down. And yeah, they spent a good bit of money, but you know, it's a very unforgiving league, and I think they're sat second from bottom. So
they're in 19th. Yeah,
it's like they're at the stage of the season now where they can't afford to be writing games off. Oh, it's Anfield. If we get beat, yeah, well, what you expect? You know, they're at the stage now where they really need to be getting something out of every game. Whether that means they go for it a bit earlier or they maybe go in and see how it goes in the first half and then try and get into the game in the second half. If I was Scott Parker, I'd be going hell for leather for the first 20 minutes. Well,
it's funny that you mention that because the Clarets have scored of the last 7 visits to Anfield. They've scored first in 4 of those visits. So they do actually have a history of coming out of the blocks quickly, and then they sit back.
Exactly.
Because that gives them that you know, that thing to hold on to. And, you know, this weekend, you're going to see the team that's faced the most low blocks in us, basically against, I think they're 3rd in the league for most time spent in a low block. So, Chris, regarding that quote from Slot where he said, you know, teams play differently against us, I don't think that Burnley is going to set up differently. I think they are going to sit in a low block. And if that surprises Slot, then on his own head be it, because this is about as clear-cut, in my opinion, as you can get in terms of tactical, you know, what I expect out of the game. Do you agree there?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know why he said it.
I don't know either, but
everyone sets up differently against us. I think every Liverpool manager's had that problem since the 60s. And guess what? Man United had that problem for years. City have that problem every season since they've had the money and the success. Arsenal have had that problem. Because guess what? Everyone knows the good sides. You do play differently against them. So rather than doing the analysis of going, oh, how did Burnley play the last 5-6 games? Look how Burnley played against Arsenal. Look how Burnley played against us at Burnley. Look how Burnley played against City. And what did they do to overcome it? That's what you focus on. I can't be having this nonsense of like, oh, I could just throw my tactics out the window, because that screams to me of A, you're just making excuses. B, you should be adaptable, or if you know teams set up differently, they will set up that way against other similar level sides that they think. So, sorry, stop moaning, crack on with it.
I mean, I think in that regard,
I'm not having
to that quote, he was talking about Barnsley specifically. And so Barnsley play in a 4-3-3. Every single game they play in a 4-3-3. And the fact that they did sit back into a back five against us, that was unexpected in that scenario. So I think him speaking there, that makes sense. I think it's being taken out of context.
But my reaction back to that is, Barnsley have never played in the back five. Be honest, most lower league Premier League sides you've played against have played the back three or back five. So surely you could have anticipated, look, Barnsley always play 4-3-3. However, they could switch to a back five, because a lot of teams switch to a back five against us. So this is how we're going to try and tackle a back five. Surely
I agree.
He's got analysts, or
I mean, they of course they have analysts. Of course they have high level guys.
That's what I mean. So you can't just live in this bubble of going, Barnsley have never done it. Well, you've got to expect people are going to throw you curveballs. And how would you plan for curveballs? We plan for this, but then there are options that they could do other things. So this is how we think we're going to adapt. And good sides adapt. That's partly on the players, but also, I'm just not having it off the manager. I expect a Liverpool manager to adapt.
I mean,
and I'd say that whether it's Klopp or Slot, even Klopp didn't have a great record against back fives, but we all said he should adapt quicker to it.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of not adapting, and speaking of, coming out with quotes that, really just make you just, I don't know, my head explode, basically, for lack of a better term. One of the quotes that we've had from Slot is talking about corners. I'm going to go back to corners. So one of the things that came out today was that Sky Sports released some new graphics on just corners in general, set pieces in general, the direction that the league is going. So none of these graphics paint us in a very nice light, but going back to those Slot quotes, one of the things that he said, and this was earlier this year, was, we're setting up exactly the same as we set up last season. I don't understand why the results are different. And if there's ever been a stick to beat him with, it's been that quote in my mind. The idea that, teams might have learned from last season, might have come up with different approaches to last season. The fact that we have completely different personnel than last season. And the fact that, trends change over time. The fact that it is a massive new tactic that's being put into this league is set pieces and corners. So just looking at this is the proportion of goals conceded from set pieces across the Premier League this season. This is updated. It was released today, so it's the most updated information that we have. And we're talking about the proportion of goals conceded from set pieces here. So how many of our goals conceded come from open play versus how many of them come from set pieces. And we are over the 50% threshold now. We are only beaten by Crystal Palace here. So for anyone listening on our Spotify, I'm just going to explain here. So Spurs are currently down at around 15%. They are in I guess it would be the best place. But they are down at the bottom of this graph. And then going up from there, the final kind of worst offenders for conceding from set pieces are Forest, followed by Liverpool, followed by Crystal Palace in last place. So this is a major, major problem. And one of the things that we talked about kind of before the show, Chris and I, was, okay, they're not signing new players. Why are they not signing a new set piece coach? Because that's something that they do have control over.
We said it off air. It feels like the other 19 teams in the league went, set pieces are going to be a big thing this year. We're really going to focus on set pieces. And Liverpool kind of went, it was fine last year. We'll leave it as it is. And then even after 5 games going, do you know, a lot of teams are doing set pieces. We need to be a bit more switched on with these set pieces. And it's almost like Liverpool have gone, it's become to a point where I'm thinking, it's almost like Liverpool just decided it's beneath them. We don't.
I don't know if they decided it was beneath them, but there's stories out there, and we'll get to a couple. I think there's a slide on here about, I don't know if there is or not, But one of the slides that popped up in this article was talking about long throws, and we are also bottom of the table in terms of utilizing long throws.
We don't use them, nor do Man City, and I think there's one or two other sides. The only one who's really got the long throw in his armory is Joe Gomez.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting to with Chris's point here about actually actively choosing to step away from set piece planning. Was back in the summer summer training period in preseason. They did try out long throws. They did find out that Joe Gomez was the only one that had that long throw in his arsenal, and they actually just dropped it from their training regime. Yeah. So that was a decision at the very beginning of the year. Now, granted, maybe with the power of hindsight, they're, in their mind, they're like, wow, we didn't realize it was going to be that big of a thing. But the upswing in long throws this year is absolutely undeniable, and it is a major, major weapon. Kev, let's go to the next slide, just talking about kind of how teams take corners. So again, this is something that we talked about at the beginning of the show behind the scenes, and this is talking about the percentage of in-swinging corners versus out-swinger corners that are taken by certain teams. So Liverpool are at the bottom of this graph in terms of the percentage of in-swinging versus out-swinging. So in-swinging is about, let's just call it 48%. And then your out-swinger would then be around 52% for Liverpool. And then if you go up that table, percentage of in-swinging corners, you talk about the teams that are actually quite good at corners, and you get up to Arsenal, Man United, Spurs, Sunderland, and Palace as your top 5, and they are at 80% of their corners that are out, or to be determined. They were in-swingers. Okay, yeah. So I just want to read the graph correctly. So we are taking mostly out-swingers. They are taking mostly in-swingers. Is that what we're talking about, or is it the reverse?
No, that's what we're talking about.
I kept reading
basically, Arsenal are the most successful club in the Premier League with set pieces, and nothing will illustrate it more than the next graph I throw up. But Arsenal are over 80% of their of their corners are in swingers, right and left side. So it will be right footer on the left side swinging in, left footer on the right side swinging in, and the odd time when they do change it up, it's usually because Saka isn't on the pitch. So Declan Rice will be on the pitch to take both. But Declan Rice has this unique ability from the right-hand side to be able to take a corner and float it in and keep it at a pace, instill it and keep it inside the 6-yard box. So, and this is what I'm talking about, is basically the areas that they hit. If you can... This is Arsenal and Liverpool, okay? Arsenal don't hit a corner towards the edge of the box. Very rarely look for the near post outside of the 6-yard box. It's almost always inside the 6-yard box.
It's right on top of the keeper.
Right on top of the keeper. Looking for blockers, looking for glances, looking to win first contact. They're looking to get most of their goals from first contact. Liverpool, when you think it, then half the corners are in swingers, half the corners are out swingers. It's scattered all over the penalty box. So they're generally looking for players in and around the penalty spot, in front of the keeper, behind the keeper, to the far post, or in on the keeper inside the 6-yard box. But again, you look at the percentages. Nothing over 20%. So nothing over 1 in 5 in a game.
There's no consistency is nothing, I think the bottom line here.
Exactly. And that's the difference. The consistency in the delivery, the quality of the delivery that Arsenal have, as opposed to what Liverpool have, is what is causing us the main problem.
I mean, Arsenal, it's 71% of their corners hit the 6-yard box, which is just naturally going to cause issues. Liverpool's 30%, and about 44% of it now is sort of on the pen spot, which, to be honest, zonal mid-market, that tends to be where a lot of the best headers are. So,
I mean, I'd argue that most of those 8% on the near post there.
Got headed out.
They hit the first man.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Man.
But we're not. Arsenal have clearly spotted. Look, getting around the keeper, pressure. Now, what does help Arsenal is Declan Rice and Saka have exceptional delivery from set pieces. You have to give them credit for their deliveries, which is why they utilise that weapon. Liverpool, I don't think, have a consistent corner taker. They seem to mix and match it too many times. Szoboszlai seems to be the most likely to be taking corners, but McAllister's took them. They're a bit hit and miss. Wirtz took them. Some are good, some are bad.
Gakpo tends to take them from the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And Szoboszlai will tend to take them from the right-hand side. Sometimes Robertson takes the in-swingers from the right-hand side. But the thing is, you look at the difference between the two, there is absolutely zero consistency. And because there's zero consistency, the end result is this.
Okay, so this is our net set piece goal graph, which I will read out from worst to best. No surprise, at the very bottom of this list is Liverpool by a distance. So Liverpool are at a net -10 set piece goal difference. So that's basically when you combine the goals that we concede from set pieces and then you add on the goals that we score from set pieces, we are currently at -10. We are joined at the very bottom of this table by Forest and West Ham, who are, arguably relegation fodder. At the top of this list, you have Manchester United in third, you have Spurs in second, and then you have Arsenal in first. They have a net positive of 9. Spurs are actually right behind them, which surprised me, at 8. There's just no way of getting around this. I mean, the teams that we're joining at the bottom of this table, Wolves, Burnley, Bournemouth, Palace, West Ham, Forest, and then Liverpool by a distance. This is atrocious. This is a glaring issue, and I can't overstate it enough. When over 50% of your goals are being conceded from set pieces, and then you're not scoring any set pieces.
Let me give you a bit of context, okay? Arsenal's total goals conceded in the Premier League this season is 14. All right? Ours is 28. If we're at 0, okay, you take off 10 goals. Just for argument's sake, you concede. Say you concede 5 fewer goals and score 5 more goals. Okay, then our goals scored go up to 37. Our goals conceded goes down to 23. That could be the difference between 35 points and 40 points.
I'm sure.
Considering the amount of games that we've drawn, which is 5. You're literally talking 2 points per draw dropped. That's the difference between us being in a title race and that, or us being comfortable in the Champions League spots and fighting for a Champions League spot. That's how bad this is.
I think it was probably by New Year's Eve. I'm sure an article came out and said if Liverpool were just at net 0 for corners, they would be 7 points better off. 7 points better off.
Will put us joint second.
So there's your glaring hole. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we can talk about signings, we can talk about the set piece coach who lost his job, but ultimately Slot is the head coach, so all the coaches report to him, and this is just ridiculous that it's been left to go on for this long. I mean, listen, it's a running joke, but Ashley and I have been pulling my hair out about the corners for about 3 years. But at least last year, defensively, we were good. Really good, actually, defensively, which is kind of why we had a net positive. Attacking corner has been atrocious for a good 2 all the time under Slot, and to be honest, tail end of Klopp, they weren't great. But the defensive ones this year have been awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to miss this super chat because they can get kind of tend to get lost.
Comes back into the day job, really, which is the reason why we're here, which is for the Burnley game.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna kind of segue over to. So if we can throw that super chat back up,
I'll get it back. I'll get it back up there now.
So Alex threw in, I feel like we scrap past Burnley and we lose to Marseille. it's a perfect segue into, the latter part of this show, which is where we kind of make some predictions, and the rules are that you need to come with your goal scorers. So who wants to go first? I'll take raised hands here.
I'm not raising my hand. I'm going first.
All right, fine.
Look, I think we'll win it 2-0. I'll go with Florian Wirtz and Cody Gakpo.
Okay.
I think the second goal will come late.
Lovely. Nothing
Sorry.
like a comfortable game.
I didn't say anything about it. I didn't say I was going to be nice about it.
We also do so well with 2-0 scorelines.
Yeah, I know.
I'm torn between two. I'll say 3-1. It'll be Wirtz, Ekitike, and Virgil late. And I think it will be Burnley will score with 5 minutes to go, make it 2-1, and we're shit in the bed and then do a breakaway. Because I just feel that's how the season's going. I'd love it to be 3-0 to sloppy one in the last minute, and we go, well, it doesn't matter, the game's won anyway. But I just don't feel it. I can't say with any confidence Liverpool will do that. I'm actually more confident Liverpool away at Marseille than I am at home to Burnley. I
can totally understand that because Marseille is going to come out and play football.
Yeah.
For me, I actually agree with Oisin here. I think that 2-1.
That was the score I had, 2-1.
Yeah, I agree with this. I think we get up to 2-0 and we do something to get to hand them a goal. I don't know what it is.
Sober's like back heels it in this time.
There's always something. And you know what? They're so creative. They come up with a new way every single time. I had no idea that you could back heel to a player right in front of your net. I had no idea that you could do that.
Perhaps we should do a guess. How are they going to concede a goal this time?
I really don't know. I don't know. I mean,
I could see us clearing a corner into one of our own players' faces and it flies in top corner. That would be very Liverpool at the moment.
You love to jinx us, so the opportunity is there.
I don't think I need to jinx us.
Your hat on that.
We're doing our own.
Blame him.
We're doing it on our own.
Come for him.
Yeah.
I'm a post-matcher. Come for him.
There. Scouts Repeat has 4-0 Wirtz, Ekitike, Curtis, Kirkus. I love that positivity.
Yeah.
Bob says 2-1 Kanate hat-trick, which is hilarious. You'll Never walk alone.
That would be very
joining
Liverpool.
us live for the first time in a little while. Welcome back. Has 3-0 Wirtz, Szoboszlai, and Ekitike. There's a lot of positivity here, and I think rightfully so. There should be positivity going into this. Jordy says 4-0 and you beat Marseille 1-0. It's a hostile environment at Marseille, but they are bang average. We should have beat them if it wasn't for Nick Pope.
Straight up, I haven't watched
that game.
Anything of Marseille for a particular
reason. It wouldn't surprise me for Marseille. We do a similar setup to the Arsenal.
That wouldn't surprise me. One thing
that sort of feels like feels like the
read,
Champions League away performance. That one.
Yeah. So Avo points out that the Velodrome is no easy place to go. One thing I wanted to point out, especially if anyone is traveling, is that the Spirit of Shankly actually sat down with the Paris police and had what they said, quote, was the longest conversation on fan safety that they've ever had prior to a match. So if you are going over to that game, just be wary of what it has happened historically in France with Liverpool supporters, but also just be aware that Spirit of Shankly is trying to put things in place for that. And I just think it's important to kind of throw that out there. A couple more kind of late predictions here. We have Alex coming in with 2-1 Ekitike brace. I like that. 6-0 to the Reds, says Red Steve. Hugo double Hattie. I mean, that would be fantastic. Maybe he would actually deserve to take his shirt off for that one. Although I don't want him to do it because, yellow cards are not what we need. Before we go, totally unrelated to the game. There was a couple of little kind of tidbits going around about Heitinga going over to Spurs. There's a little bit of a backstory going on, little rumors. So there you go. Right on cue. Thank you so much. Oshin says, any thoughts on Johnny going to Spurs and not backed to use, as Indy suggested, was the first hope? I just want to get your take on this news because it just came out today. Like I said, there's a little bit of storyline that's being spun by individuals on Twitter. They're trying to kind of paint this illustration that Slot wanted Heitinga to come back and that Hughes somehow overruled him in that, and that it's setting them up for some sort of clean slate in the summer. Look, I think that ITKs or supposed ITKs can take anything and run with it and spin a story. That is what they do for a living. Kev, I'm just going to come to you for your 2 cents on this.
They can come out and say whatever they like because they know that nothing's going to be refuted. Arne Slot's not going to address that, and he'll literally say best of luck to Johnny Heitinga in his new role at Spurs. That'll be the end of it. I'm a firm believer in not going back.
We also have an assistant coach.
Exactly.
Whether we like him or not, we do currently have that role filled.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, for Johnny Heitinga's point of view, look, he went to Liverpool, he won the league, he done really well. He went to Ajax on the back of it, didn't work out how he wanted. Go and experience something else. You know, it's like he's lived in London before, he's played in London before. Go and work under Thomas Frank.
He was a coach at West Ham. He was a coach at West Ham as well.
Exactly.
Maybe he's wanting to broaden his coaching.
Exactly. Go and work.
And Frank has hired another Liverpool coach as well. I think his name is Fabian Otto. So there's a couple of backroom staff from last year at Liverpool that have been hired out, and rightfully so. It's a very small world. I think there was a great interview. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it talks about why Pep Linders would go to City. And it talks about how sort of the scene that is sort of the backroom staff at elite level, whether it's coaching staff or assistant coaching staff or trainers, any of those, analysts and things like that. The pool is actually so small and they really are incredibly intertwined. And although there is a degree of loyalty between clubs, those individuals don't have the same kind of leeway and flexibility that sort of like a main character manager would have. And that sometimes these people have to go where either is best for their career. And I guess that was the idea behind Pep Linders, where it was, he's going to study under the best coach that he has the opportunity to study under at that point in time.
And that's what I was going to say.
Not because it was about rivalry or about, betraying Liverpool or anything like that, but because ultimately it is such a small pool of clubs that they can choose from, and they're going to pick the best opportunity for themselves.
Yeah. Go and work under Thomas Frank for 6 months, and then see what the summer brings.
And there was a great point that there might be an opportunity if Thomas Frank goes. There might be an opportunity there if you're an assistant for whether it's an interim or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I always felt that Jurgen Klopp, if he was going to stay at the club, I was always a big fan, and Alex Ferguson did it successfully for years. The players have to hear different voices. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But changing your coaches every couple of years, when you get a new intake of players, changing your coaches is probably the smartest thing you can do. And it doesn't have to be all and sundry, but just one in, one out every year or two is not a bad thing. But I honestly look at Man City now, and you can see the influence that Pep Linders has on that City squad.
Oh yeah, I think he's massively improved them, especially like a Doku. I think he has a big role to play in Doku's success.
It's more for me. It's more to do with the counter press.
That as well.
I think you watch the way that they counter press now and how aggressive they are off the ball. They were always aggressive, but I think they hunt in packs a lot more now, and they're more accurate in winning the ball back in higher areas. And I think that a lot of that is down to him. And at the end of the day, look, some people are excellent number twos, and then just don't cut it at number one. And there's nothing wrong with that. Especially in this day and age. Longevity is not afforded to managers. So being an effective coach and being someone who's in demand is a good thing to have. It's a good thing to be.
Chris, any thoughts on Heitinga?
No, I mean, can I believe it's true that the club said no? Yeah, if ultimately they aren't going to keep the manager beyond this summer, you're not really going to add to his backroom staff, are you?
But the position is full anyways.
Yeah, there's that.
There's no space.
I know Kev said, he's a big fan of us not going back, which is true. I mean, there are occasions when it has worked. I think Pep Linders did come back. He took he went and did a job in Holland, didn't he? And he came back about a year later.
Yeah, but he came back in a different role, didn't he? He didn't come straight back.
I think he was like an individual coach, and then he came back as came back to number 2, I think. So
exactly.
So it does happen. But do you know what? I think with Johnny Heitinger, I think he's been coach at West Ham. You know, he's now coached at Liverpool and won stuff at Liverpool. He's been first team coach twice. It hasn't quite worked out the way he wanted.
Yeah.
So he's now going to learn under Thomas Frank, who's a different manager again. And I think it's just like, you know, Steven Gerrard talked about it. I know his coach career hasn't worked as well, but he said, like, you try and cherry pick the best bits you like of every manager and you mold it into your own style. And you speak to any managers, they all say, like, they take different bits or anything like that. You know, and I think it's probably just a way of shaping his career. And maybe he may decide, you know what? Maybe being a manager isn't for me, but I could be a really good coach. And if I've coached them, won at Liverpool, I can improve Spurs defensively, say. You know, I've learned at West Ham, I've learned from experiences at Ajax. Someone who's had all that experience and been successful, he'll have his pick of clubs then. And he'll never be without a job. So, well, it'd be a good career. Thomas Frank's a very good manager. I know it's not going well at Spurs, but he's a very good manager, and that's a real asset to learn from. So, for Johnny Heitinger, I think it's a great move.
I think it's a great move. I think it's a very clever move by Spurs.
I think so. I think it's a smart move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last thing that I want to touch on before we go is a little bit of news that came out of the BBC today. So the KMI, the Key Match Incident Panel, reviews the PGMOL findings, decisions, all these things. And what came out today was a little bit of information about the Florian Wirtz offside. And if you know anything about this channel, you know that I spend a lot of time doing our Good Process show, which is over on our Patreon, which is right there. And 2 weeks ago, we kind of really broke down this Florian Wirtz goal. And we talked about why all was not as it seemed for the Florian Wirtz goal. And we talked at length about the idea that you have 3 frames to choose from, and the VAR can choose any of those 3 frames, and the broadcasters can choose any of those 3 frames. There's no rules about that. There's no communication between the two of them. It really is just about what kind of story they want to paint. And so what came out today from the BBC was an admission that the broadcasters chose the frame that made Florian Wirtz look the most offside rather than the frame that was actually used by the VAR. And they continue to push that narrative. And I thought it was very, very interesting that the BBC came out and said that publicly and spoke to the nature of, it's almost like pulling back the curtain a little bit on the production side of things. Because Robertson came out with a bit of an interview, Madge. We'll touch on that at the very end of the show before I just kind of lose my train of thought. So I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on this idea of Sky and some of these other broadcasters literally manipulating what we are seeing as viewers to try to cause this level of...
If you gaslight football fans and say, it's a dodgy decision Liverpool have got, social media clicks, everyone goes and watches it, everyone looks at your YouTube clip. TNT, the biff that is Fletch, spent the whole of the FA Cup talking about how great it was we didn't have VAR, despite the fact they highlighted absolute bollock decisions and then went, but it's great there's no VAR. Not really, because the decision's wrong. You know, it'd be interesting what Sky do, because the BBC have come out and just basically said, you have inflamed the situation by deliberately choosing a still that misrepresents a decision for attention, for entertainment. Do you know what? Is the rules that they're allowed to do that? Maybe, but I mean, ethically, can you say, why aren't you showing the still that the VAR uses? Say, look, this is the still they use. It's three frames back.
I mean, ethically, you are deliberately misleading fans. So fans see what they see on television. They don't have the benefit of the doubt of being in the stadium. They don't have the benefit of the doubt of getting those 3 screens, the screen grabs. In my opinion, and again, that's just me kind of shouting from my little soapbox over here, I do think that there is an ethical duty from Sky Sports to give the fans the most accurate information possible.
Yeah,
because
I
we are
agree.
paying customers at the end of the day. We pay. I don't pay for Sky, but I pay for Peacock, for example. I pay for my cable streaming service. I pay for any of the services where I am viewing this. Ultimately, I am a paying customer, and I deserve to not be misled by a broadcaster. A broadcaster ultimately should be doing a public service at the end of the day.
You're 100% right. Look,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's probably whether they do it's like an off complaint situation, isn't it? But we'll see.
I don't know, Kev. What are your thoughts on this?
we picked up on it very early. Do you remember
Yes.
in the post match? We picked up on it because it just didn't smell right.
Of course not.
You know, I mean, from the image that you saw on Sky,
You look miles off in the image.
They
looks-
make it look like we are somehow
Yeah.
are cheating and getting some sort
Exactly.
of ridiculous benefit.
Exactly. And the only way to do that is they've shown the wrong image. You know, and I can understand how it can happen when you're given a choice of three. Which one are they most likely to go and check? And you're a producer or a director, you're going to say, okay, go with image number 3. And that's the one they put up. The VAR are independent, and it goes to actually show that they are independent of the broadcaster, that they are looking at their own camera stills, not the broadcaster's camera view. So, but, you know, after the decision has been made, within the next break of play or the next break of play again, Sky should have been given, this is the image we used, this is how we arrived at this decision, here is the 3D image.
That's where I have really hard
And that's
time
all
here.
you have to do.
Because the image that Sky showed came after. So there was a brief, I think there was a brief moment where they showed a still, but the image that they showed with
They
lines
continued
drawn,
showing it, yeah.
they continued to show it after. So
Yeah.
this was 5, 6, 7 minutes after that review was done, and they continued to go back to it. So that was
And the thing is,
a conscious decision.
we'll slate VAR and the PGMOL and when they deserve it. But when they're hung out to dry by a broadcaster who has gone up to the top of a hill and will not die on that hill, what are the PGMOL and VAR supposed to do? You know, they don't decide what Sky show. So
Ultimately, that's not on the PGML. This is fully on Sky. And
Yeah,
look,
this
I
is
know
fully
that
on
Sky
Sky.
is not a ethical
The
conglomeration as a whole. But, you know, Real Talk makes a really good point here. You know, if that had happened in a title deciding game, there would be uproar. That would go on long after just that one moment. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is just driving clicks and driving engagement. But at the end of the day, as Madge says, a decision is based on a specific image. It's the onus is on Sky to use it. And it's misrepresentation and it's disingenuous behavior. And, you know, I just don't think that it can be said any better, Madge. I think applaud to you. I think that's fantastic.
The
And
frustration
I hope
is
that this maybe sets a precedent where they are being called out, maybe one broadcaster to another, you know, where they are being called out. And it's, you know, at least it's opening people's eyes to the situation. Because I think when we were talking about it on Good Process, it felt a little bit like tin hat theory.
Well, there was another one in the League Cup the other night with I think the Arsenal and Chelsea game where they were talking about.
Oh, I'm going to go into the offside.
Yeah, because
there's almost 2 identical scenarios
Yeah,
where
I know.
they decided to change the rules overnight.
But it's like are they trying to give the player who was on the line offside for
Which one?
interfering with play? The Arsenal player?
In the Chelsea game, they let the goal go. So
Yeah,
it
rightly
was
so. It's goal.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And in the other game, in the City game,
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Okay, so it was very, very close. We're going to look at them side by side in our
good.
previous
I'll make
show
sure.
on
they're
Tuesday.
pretty
I
similar.
promise.
They're pretty similar. Yeah.
They're very, very similar.
QR
and
code, and that'll
trust
be
me.
going Good Process next week.
Yeah, trust me, it'll be in Good Process. We'll go through it kind of microscopically. Basically, what happened, giant uproar. The automatic offsides failed. You know, PGMOL decided, oh no, we're going to fix this. The next game, literally 24 hours, almost an exact same thing happened. It took about 8 minutes in one game and 6 seconds in another game, and they came up with 2 completely different outcomes.
Well,
so we'll talk about it in detail.
Yeah, I can only go on the game that I saw, the Arsenal Chelsea one. There was nothing wrong with that goal. That should have.
Then arguably there was nothing wrong with the City goal either.
Yeah, I'll have to dig it out and find it, but I'm not watching 5.5 minutes of listening to.
Don't worry, I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you.
Yeah,
I'm here for that.
But again, go back to the frustration is, Ash, you don't have access to all the images and things Sky do. But I think pretty much after that goal, within half an hour, you had images, the PGML reason behind it, and these are the images we use. Oh, this is why it's a goal. I've still yet to see Sky, a multi-million-pound goal Sky go, actually, do you know what? This is a goal. Why? Because actually, yes, we did show this image, but this is the image values. Actually, it's the most accurate image, and here's the line as to why. So actually, the goal was perfectly fine. There's no conspiracy here. Multi-billion-pound company who love to do ref watch with Dermot Gallagher, who's fucking useless.
Dermot Gallagher, who says, I've looked through weeks of footage and I can't find a single incident that looks like this. Oh, just kidding. It happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You're like going,
it goes back to the
Google.
gaslighting.
Dermot Gallagher's not discovered Google.
Right. Can we just talk about this for 1 second? Because that's going to come up next week.
I hugely disagree with this.
Yeah. Wenger's offside rule is a fucking disaster.
What's this new one? I've lost track of all of his offside
would only happen if there's clear daylight between two players. So you'd no longer have lines, that you would basically be looking for clear daylight between the defender and the offensive player. For me, this would absolutely
when you say daylight, do you mean the whole body daylight or just a bit of daylight?
This is it.
Just daylight.
This is the problem with it.
He's tried this bollocks before. He's tried this bollocks before.
No, they haven't. No.
So this is so far. Again, if you go onto Twitter and if you live your life on Twitter, you would think that this is going to come in tomorrow. So let me just clear this up here from a actual rule standpoint. This is so far away from being an actual issue for this league. So it is going into a vote I believe this week. It is going to a higher vote to see if it can get voted into a test kind of state. So there might be a U21 tournament where it's tested, or there might be a lower division where it's tested. This would be, let's say it got passed, which it doesn't look like it's going to, but let's say it got passed and then it went into testing and there were no issues with testing. You'd be talking probably at the earliest 2028 to 2029 would be the earliest that you'd see any sort of implementation of something like this. So the idea that it's going to come into the league next year, fear mongering. So just nip that in the bud. But I am not okay.
When I say he's done this before, he talked to another one where he said offside should only be decided by the feet, and it got laughed out because someone showed an image of a Sterling goal, disallowed, and you went, "Yeah, he's offside. That's fine." But you stood there and said, "Well, if you just go over his feet, he's leant forward, almost like a yard," and they went, "Well, that'd be allowed." And then he goes, "Yeah, but that looks offside." He goes, "Well, your rule says it's allowed." That's the same thing. You step every forward, just lean forward, lads.
I mean, there's so many people that come into football. Like, I think it was Olivier Giroud that came out a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "I think that 0-0 draws should be no points. I think that would change the way that players approach draws. That score draws, you can still get a point, but 0-0 draws, you would get 0 points. It would be the same as a loss." Again, you have all these people out there with a voice. It does not mean that all of these ideas are valid.
Ultimately, really the offside rule has changed twice.
Yes.
Since the formation of
there was football. It was what, in the 90s?
Yeah. That was the main one. And that was in and around the time, the 1990 World Cup. They changed the offside rule from the second last player to the last player, right around the time when they got rid of the pass back rule. All right. And they were the biggest fundamental rule changes in football. And ultimately, this decision will affect football from the elite level of the Champions League down to
children,
your kids playing football on Saturdays. It's a nonsense. And no matter what they try to say, you're still drawing a line somewhere.
Yep.
You're still drawing a line somewhere.
There's going to be an offside where someone is going to feel like they are marginally offside or marginally onside. Doesn't matter. And
from a tactical point of view, all you're going to do is tell the defensive sides, sit back and deep.
Yeah, they're going to sit so deep that there's almost, I mean, and that was a great discourse. Unwatchable. Well, there was a great discourse today. It was between the Anfield Rap and his name's going to escape me, and I apologize. But he was talking about how there's a direction that the league is traveling in. And he compared it to Italia 90 and how over time, because the league continued to kind of get better and better. And the players got better and better, and the teams that were lower down the table got better and better. There were a lot of things that evened out. And despite the fact they kept pumping in money into the league, the quality of the football actually started to drop because of teams dropping and playing more defensively and having low blocks. And we are currently on that trajectory. And if you start introducing things like this, I got to tell you, you're going to end up with so many 0-0 games. You're going to end up with, we already have VAR. It's interfering so much that you have to score a absolutely perfect goal for it to count. Trust me, more intervention, more tweaks is not going to make it better, in my opinion. And that's just my opinion. But
look, I've said this for years. When it comes to football and the quality of the game, the easiest thing to do and the easiest thing to coach is what Burnley are going to do to us at the weekend. A bank of 5 with a disciplined bank of 4 and a pattern of play to play out with quick players up front. It's the easiest thing, and it's a massive leveler. But if you get good sides doing it, if you get really good sides with really good defenders and really solid, smart defensive midfielders and really quick forward technical attackers who are willing to put a shift in doing that and buying into that, it's a recipe to win leagues out of nowhere.
Inter Milan has done that. That's how they've gotten to the Champions League multiple times.
So
that's what they've done.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the way football is headed, football in general, we'll finish up in a minute, but football for me at the minute is becoming really difficult to watch. So when you get a game like you got the other night with Barcelona and Real Madrid, I loved it. I loved watching it. Two sides having a right go at each other, and it was a really good watch. But those games now are becoming very few and far between. And I'm getting sick to death of watching the low blocks. And my fear is a low block side being successful.
Arsenal.
I don't think Arsenal play a low block, but I think they have principles that are in that same wheelhouse.
Arsenal are very much, we're going to go all out attack and we're going to go low block defense. Don't get caught in the transition. Don't get caught between the two. And that's fine. And it's when you get sides like the Inter Milan side that was really successful, but there's been others. Conte, most Conte sides.
Simeone, thank you.
Simeone is another one. When you see that level of football succeed at higher levels, you get someone turning around and winning a Bundesliga or La
Jose
Liga.
Mourinho is a perfect example.
Yeah, that plays unattractive football and is successful at doing it. Then other sides want to emulate it. When you see sides like Pep Guardiola, possession, attacking, tiki-taka, counter-pressing from Jurgen Klopp. Sides want to play
Jurgen Klopp's a big one. Don't underestimate what he's done for the game as a whole.
Yeah.
Like the actual spectacle as a whole. I don't even mean for the game. I mean for the spectacle. Like, he created that. I feel like we would have gone down this route earlier if it hadn't been for Klopp, to be completely honest.
In fairness, Oshie makes a point here, and look, you guys won't get this, but people who live in Ireland will. Who would have thought that Gaelic football would have been a better watch than English football in 2026? And that's some turnaround from a few years ago. Gaelic football over here 3 years ago was an unwatchable sport. It was so defensive and so boring. And what they did, they brought in a couple of rule changes where where they changed where you can score from, where you get an extra point from scoring a point over the bar from an arc that's 45 meters out, and players can kick accurately from 45 meters. And by doing that, it forced sides to have to defend out, which left space in behind, which created a more attacking game all around. And I don't see in any way, shape, or form how Arsene Wenger's idea creates that level of football. It assumes that defenders are going to carry on defending in a high line, which they won't. They just won't. They will sit deeper and deeper in their low blocks and look for ways to build counter-attacking patterns of play to be able to hit sides in the counter by doing it. It's going to be a nightmare if this comes through.
Well, again, cross that bridge if you get to it. Hopefully we don't get to it. But on that happy note, I think we should probably wrap up. We will be back tomorrow with a random show. I don't know if that's going to be on Patreon or YouTube, so turn on your notifications. We have just sort of an all-around Looney Tunes idea for what's going to happen on that show. So chaos as usual. So if you're interested in that, join the Patreon. Links over there. We're going to be back for our post-match reaction after our Burnley game. We also have our normal Sunday night show where the guys come and they kind of chat about the week as a whole. So yeah, back to our kind of normal schedule after the holidays and after everything. And I've heard a little birdie talking about maybe our favorite Canadian coming back, in the not too distant future. So I think we're all kind of hopeful that might come to fruition. So again, just be on the lookout. Don't know when that's going to happen, but there's a little, if I'm going to be an ITK in the universe, there might be a little chance of that happening. And I really hope it's true. So that's all for us tonight. If you guys like the graphics, let us know, because this is new for us. We're trying something out. If you don't like it, tell us and we will, respect your decision. So again, just leave us a comment after the show so that we can go in and read that. There were some good comments after the show the other night. So far so good in that regard. Otherwise, that's all for us. Thank you so much, Kev. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much, everyone in the chat. As usual, you guys make this show what it is, and we appreciate all of our comments as well. So yeah, Kev, do you want to take us out of here?
Yeah. See you guys.